Om Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. We'll do the Mandukya Karika, started today. So, can Punjabi Cation chant the Dhyana slokas?
Okay, Swamiji. Om Bhadram Karte Vishnunyama Devaha Bhadram Pakshemakshaviryajatraha Sirairangai Susuvagum Sasanubihi Veshemaidam Dedayu Swastina Indro Vridasavaha Swastina Pusha Vishwavedaha Swastina Srakshu Arishanibi Swastina Brihaspadirdadi Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Okay, with that, part of the Atharva Veda, Mandukya Upanishad is a very, very small Upanishad. For a major Upanishad, it's the shortest, only 12 verses. Actually, Upanishad cannot be classified as major or minor, but that classification has come about because Adi Shankara commented on 10 Upanishads, and because he commented on the 10, all the succeeding Acharyas also commented on the 10. So then they became major Upanishads. Like quite a few times I have taught the Kaivalya, and those who have sat for the Kaivalya have not found it anything less than any other Upanishad, though it comes under one of the minor Upanishad. Or in a camp we have seen Amrita Bindu. That's also equally good, equally this thing as any Upanishad. But there is a certain amount of completeness in the 10 Upanishads. Prashna I do because I thought about it whether this time I should do it. But only one question out of 6 questions. Prashna Upanishad is made up of 6 questions. Only one deals with Vedanta. Everything else is about the prana, this, that. Now there's a lot I can say about the prana. There's a lot of practices I can give also. But I know for sure that nobody is going to do it here. Unless a few people who are doing some qigong or heavily into yoga, nobody else is going to do any of that work. Okay. And those who are into qigong and yoga pranayama, they are already doing it. Need not load them with what is happening here also. But in many ways, certain of those verses are responsible for that source. But they will interest only those who are into that type of thing. In olden India or ancient India, that was some part of the preparation, so people would do that. Since today preparation is different, I am not going into that. So I thought then straight the next would be Mandukya Karika. So it's an interesting Upanishad for 2 reasons. One, of course, primary, all Upanishad, self-knowledge. The word Upanishad itself means self-knowledge. We have seen that. Upa Samipe, the nearest, Ni Nishchayatmaka Jnanam, Shad Brahma Gamayati, Ajnanam Nashayati, Anartha Vratan Visharanti. All this meaning we have seen, and every time we have done an Upanishad, we have seen that meaning. And Upanishad is a pramana for knowing yourself. So that is common run through all the Upanishads. Then what is different? Each Upanishad approaches from an angle. It highlights certain things in the very way it is structured. Like in Katha Upanishad, it's a kid going, youngster going off. Chalo. In Mandukya, the other way around, it's a very mature man going to study. Just to show, it shows, if you take both together, shows that it is not age dependent, it is maturity dependent. Age doesn't matter. What does it matter? How old you are or how young you are. Your understanding of things matter, of life matters. Here, two things are highlighted. One is Omkara, and correlated with that is your experiences. Your experiences in its totality. Normally, when we use the word experience, we'll use it only for the waking state. What do you experience in the waking state? But the Upanishad includes your dream and deep sleep also, and then links it up with the totality at each level. At each level, it shows an identity. So, that is the approach of the Upanishads. I don't know whether any of you have heard this Upanishad from me before. I don't think so. Not here. Okay, I taught it. Acha, you have heard. The whole Karika also?
No.
Yes.
We heard it from Puja Swamiji in the camp.
The 12 Upanishads then, yeah. I mean 12 verses.
Yeah, the 12 verses.
12 verses,
basically.
yeah.
You had taken a class long back, Swamiji. Few
Yeah.
years back, you took the entire Mandukya.
Yeah, I had done it in the Bandra class long back. Long back.
And and even the Karika was done.
Karika was done at that time, yeah. I don't know whether those videos are up or whatever. Anyway, let's see. Okay, so Mandukya 12 verses. On these 12 verses, Shankara's grand guru. Okay. Shankara's guru is Govinda Bhagavad-pada. His guru was Gaudapada. Okay. So, I think those days before Shankara formalized the sannyasi names, Bhagavad-pada was also one of the names, if you notice, because Shankara, the name is given to Shankara by his parents. So I think when he took sannyasa, he was given the added name Shankara Bhagavad-pada, because Gaudapada, Govinda Bhagavad-pada. So it looks like that. Okay, we don't know for sure. In fact, some of the traditional thinkers think that was how it was before the Shankara formalized it into Dasanama. Because Dasanama and the 4 Pitas came up only after Shankara. The Shankara who established the 4 Pitas. And since he stayed in Kanchi, they claim it as the 5th Pita. So, this is where the thing is. And his grand guru, as I was saying, Gaudapada, wrote a commentary, which is a Vartika literally, or a Karika, okay, of 100 verses on the Upanishads. Okay. On that, Shankara has written a Bhashya on both the Upanishadic verses as well as the Karika verses. Because so what is the Karika supposed to do? Like a Bhashya, it's supposed to bring out the nuances that is there in the Upanishad. Okay. So when we are studying, okay, in a camp or something like that, we'll do the brief Upanishad version, 12 verses. But otherwise, we will be doing, like here, the Upanishad and the Karika both. So I'm sure all of you have the 8 Upanishad with you, and that will have this Upanishad and the Karika. So anything you want to check up with me before we start off? Any questions, clarifications on what we have seen up to now? Punjabi Kishan, you have a question?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Swamiji, other than Mandukya, is there any other Karika or any other Upanishad? Because we have the Vartika as seen.
No.
But Karika, no other ones.
No, Karika is not there, but there are Vartikas available on the Bhashya after that.
Vartika Kara is
on the Bhashya, yeah.
Not this is something which goes in line with the Upanishad.
Yeah. That it gained that extra credibility. And, okay, another thing. Remember, Vedanta doesn't hesitate to use any prakriya, any argument to help you understand what the Upanishad is saying. For Vedanta, the pramana is the Upanishad. In fact, for all of us, when you say Vedanta, what is it? The pramana. Vedanta nama Upanishad pramana. Vedanta is a name given to the Upanishads because it happens at the end portion of the Veda, and that is the pramanam for self-knowledge. Therefore, the pramana stands for it by itself. It need not have anything else. But for our understanding, there are explanations, arguments, bhashyas, karikas, etc. So, any acharya can use any argument necessary as long as logical from its own standpoint to explain what is being said. Like if you notice, I will borrow some arguments from science. Makes it easier because today that is a common knowledge. So similarly, Gaudapada borrows a lot of arguments from, not lot, some arguments from Buddhist texts. Yeah. Because Buddhist has also established Mithyatvam of the world very well. So for that, he borrows some of those arguments. Because of which some academic writers call him a hidden Buddha. That he is a Bauddha at heart. He is a Buddhist at heart, not a Vedanta. Which is not true at all, because in the Karika there is a very clear-cut verse that says this is not Bauddha Matam. Very clearly he says this is not what was said by Buddha. Okay? Etat na Bauddhena proktam. Very clear-cut he has said it. Since it's very specifically said. Okay? Many people feel the arguments of Buddhism and arguments of Vedanta are very close. They are close only as far as Mithyatvam is concerned. That also is important to keep in mind. The whole approach is coming from diametrically opposite sides. One is saying existence is everything and other is saying non-existence is everything. Okay. So no way you can compare the two and say, oh, they are saying same thing. The hardcore Buddhists will not. That some of the mistakes, some of the Zen masters view that non-existent differently is a different thing altogether. That helps us for us to have some dialogue. Okay. Yeah. But otherwise, it is different. Yeah. Shunyameva satyam. You know. Yeah. What is not there is the truth. So, that is completely opposite of what we are saying. So, you have to keep that also in mind. Then Buddhism becomes popular, especially in the Western world. Why? Because most of them come from a Christian background. So to accept Vedanta, they have to leave their understanding of God behind. To understand Buddhism, they don't have to, because Buddhism doesn't have a God. Bhagavan is not there. So they have temples, Buddhist temples, where they are worshipping various manifestations of Buddha. One of the most popular, for example, is Amida Buddha. So like that, they will have various representations. So because you don't have to leave your idea of God behind, it becomes very convenient. But unless you expand your understanding of God, you are stuck. You will not get what Vedanta is talking anyway. So with that, let's get into what the Upanishad is saying. And as any Upanishad, it starts with a bang. Okay? Remember, In Vedanta, the highest is always given first. Doesn't follow the normal practice of simple to complex. If you look into all your academic studies you have done, you start with simple ideas and go into more and more complex ideas. No? But Vedanta is a pramana, therefore is to start with the highest. What is the truth? And then explain that. Not simplify it, explain it. Vedanta doesn't simplify. Okay? Because how are you going to simplify your all-pervading consciousness? Tell me that. People used to come and tell my teacher, Swamiji, you are so simple. He will say, no, I am not simple, I am very clear. Because I am so clear, it looks simple for you. If you simplify, then you have to modify it. If you modify it, you get something else altogether. Or you will get very conceptualized idea of Vedanta. And that becomes a problem. Because once you are stuck with that concept, it becomes very difficult to break that concept and go ahead. Which is what happens in many of our discussion groups and things like that. Yeah. So, that is a problem. This oversimplification is a problem. Though some masters have done that for a public approach, etc. That is their choice, fine. Though the traditional masters will not simplify it. So if the traditional master feels that in public they can't talk pure Vedanta, they will teach Bhagavatam. You look at all the Mandaleshas. They will go about teaching Bhagavatam. Why? You will get a general idea about Vedanta from Bhagavatam. Okay? There are a lot of verses which will give you an apata jnana. And they hope that will make them ready for understanding things deeper. Or you can be a good teacher enough to clarify things so much that the Upanishads also seem simple to people because of your clarity of teaching. So that is a traditional approach. Okay. So it starts with a bang. It says, Om ityeta daksharam idam sarvam. Simple. All that is here is Omkara alone. If you understand this, you don't have to understand anything else. All that is here is Omkara. बस हो गया काम. Why? Okay. Because Omkara is a name for Brahman. Why is he saying that? Because Omkara is a name for Brahman. Between Nama and Nami there is an Abheda. This is the opposite of what Shakespeare has said. He said, a rose by any other name would be equally sweet. Acceptable. But supposing tomorrow I say, look at this beautiful prose. What will you say? I have a rose in my hand and saying, look at this beautiful prose. Or look at this beautiful cross. Once you learn a language, the name and the subject become one. Once you learn the language, not without that. If you don't know the language, then it's just a sound. It is not a word for you then. Unless you know the language, it's not a word. Yeah. You have to know the language, that's understood. Yeah. I mean, this connection between the word and its meaning is so much that Nayayika says is God given. Nayayika says the name and the meaning is God given. They know but language is invented by man, therefore it is not God given, it's men have given it, human beings have given it. Yeah, but they are also looking at it from the standpoint of Sanskrit, Deva Bhasha. Sanskrit is the language of the gods. Therefore it is not human beings who have invented Sanskrit. So then that is their standpoint for saying that. I am not saying name and meaning is given by God. I am not saying that. But what I am trying to say is make you understand why the Nayayika says it. So much so that Kalidasa, when he is writing his work in one of his works, I think Raghuvamsha, he says, Vag Artha Iva Asamprakta Vag Artha Pratipatte Jagata Pitaro Vande Parvati Parmeshwara. I worship the parents of the universe, Parvati and Parameshwara. For what? And how are they Parvati and Parameshwara? Inseparable, like Vak and Artha. Vak Artha Ivo Asamprakto. How inseparable is a word and its meaning. Okay. Why I am saying that? Vak Artha Pratipatti. So that let the meaning of my words become clear for the people. Okay. Because he is writing Raghuvamsha. And Raghuvamsha is the history of the family of Raghu, Rama's family actually. Some 40 kings, 39 kings before Rama and 30 after that. Each one a hero. Okay, each one a great personality. So he writes, he says that Vagartha Asamprakta. Therefore, when he says Omkara is everything, means all the reality, that's all that is there. All that is here is Brahman, the reality. Bas ho gaya. Understood? Fine. If you understood that, let's close the book and go and have a cup of coffee. Bas ho gaya. Then he says, oh, you not understood. Tasya upakhyanam. Now that is being explained. When you say everything, what do you mean? When you say Omkara, what do you mean? Because everything also has to be explained. What do you mean everything? Everything can be everything you are seeing, but there are so many more things than what you are seeing. What about that? Therefore he says, Bhutam Bhavat Bhavishyad Iti Sarvam Omkara Eva. The present, the past, the future. All that is there is Omkara. In short, time and space and everything in time and space. Time mentioned separately to take into account past, present, future. All that is Omkara. Because everything, no? What do you mean by everything? All that exists, time, space, and all that exists in time and space, now, past, and future. That is what you mean by everything. Omkara eva. Okay? Yacha anyat trikala atitam tadapi omkara eva. But I heard that Brahman is the reality beyond the 3 periods of times. Acha. Do you think there is something beyond the 3 periods of time? Haan. ठीक है. Tadapi omkara eva. That's also omkara. कुछ बाकी है? That means what? Omkara is the world, this whole manifested universe, and what is behind the manifestation, the source. Everything is Omkara. That means the source of creation and the creation. Everything is Omkara. There is nothing separate from Omkara. And that happens to be Brahman. Therefore, there is nothing separate from Brahman, the consciousness. How is it consciousness? Etc. We'll see. Everything is Brahman. But what about all this? Brahman only. By saying this, you are forced to accept the fact that If you are seeing anything other than Brahman, it can't be real. No? If all that is there is Brahman, the consciousness, Omkara, then if you are taking something as separate from Brahman, what is it? Your adhyasa. If something is appearing other than that, it is pure mithya. So now look what he has said. Satyam mithya, both is Omkara. Satyam and mithya, both are the consciousness. Correct or not? Swamiji, how is mithya consciousness? Without the base of, is there anything mithya? Without consciousness, without satyam, can there be anything mithya? So when you are saying mithya is consciousness, what does it mean? What does it mean? That doesn't have, whatever you are taking is only nama rupa, it does not have an independent existence. It's only another name you are given for a form. But then Omkara is also a name, no? Very peculiar name. It is a name that includes all names into it and all forms into it. Look at it. It is not a Sanskrit symbol. One thing to understand about Om is, it's a pratika, not a pratima. This difference also I have to clarify. Okay. What is the difference between a pratima and a pratika? A pratima has a form. It's like a murti. You can keep a form, Shiva, Rama, Dakshinamurti, whatever. It's got a form. That's called a pratima. Devi, Saraswati, all that. A pratika is only a sound. Meaningful, of course. Meaningless sounds, we will leave it with TM. Okay. So, pratika is a sound symbol. A sound can also indicate various things. Like in marriages, you play the Shanai, no? Nadaswaram. In South, you call it the Nagaswaram. In North, it's called the Shanai. It's supposed to be Mangalam, stand for Mangalam, auspiciousness. It's got a bit of a mournful sound, maybe indicating the shape of things to come. Marriage. It can be joyful also, depends on which raga you play, okay. In fact, Shankara Matam, when there are a lot of the homas and all happening, so at the end of, when the Arati, one of the offerings is the drummer and the Nadaswaram players are also supposed to play a tune on it. So the tune can be joyful also, not that it has to be mournful. Can be joyful. So that is a pratika, standing for something. In the sound of the veena, you invoke Saraswati. In the sound of the veena, you invoke Saraswati. Pratika. There is no pratima. You can have a separate pratima for Saraswati. Or you can invoke it in a pratika, the sounds of the veena. Now, the Omkara is supposed to be only a pratika. Not a pratima. The unfortunate thing is, everywhere you go, you'll find Om written down in that funny way, you know. That O and the tail and that Anuswara, Chandrakala and Anuswara. It is not meant to be. It is not meant to be written down. Why? Omkara is a name for Brahman. So when you hear Omkara, what you should be having in your mind? Brahman, limitless consciousness. But when you hear Omkara, now what comes into your mind? Dom. Unfortunate. They practically destroyed a pratika by making it into a pratima. So when you say Om is all this, people say, how can Om be all that? Then you'll say, oh, it's a mystic symbol. All that nonsense you'll have to talk about. Simple pratika, it's a name. That's why generally you won't find it in our ashrams and all, unless some idiotic character has put it there. Not meant to be. Okay? Yeah. All right. So for okay, yat trikalatītam tadipi omkara eva. Okay, that is fine. Okay. Now, since all this is omkara, and omkara is a name for Brahman. In the next line, he uses the word Brahman. These are all the imprecise usage by the Upanishadic masters. They were not very precise thinkers. This is some of the modern writers writing on it. It's not true. They were very precise. They had a definite purpose for doing it. Because you said Omkara is everything, and everything is Brahman. Therefore, Brahman is everything. So that's what we have to see, how is Brahman is everything. So therefore he says, Sarvam yetad bahyam atma Brahma. Sarvam yetad Brahma, I am Atma Brahma. All there is Brahman. What you have taken as you is also Brahman. I am Atma Brahma. Now this as a Mahavakya, you can explain this. We did that in the camp. But here the whole Upanishad is explaining it in his own way. Therefore, I am not going to explain it separately. You just have to say the what you have taken as I, really speaking, is Brahman. Let us do it without technicalities. Okay. Sarvam Brahman. Okay, everything is Brahman. That means what? You have to look at a thing and see what is the content of the thing. If he says Brahman, then you examine a thing and you will find that what you thought was matter is only becoming a form or a structure. I have done this hundreds of times here. What I thought was a book is only a form, an arrangement of paper. Where is book? All there is paper alone. So, the word book is only for a noun. It's only a name for a form. So, when you look at it and try to see what it is, it will disappear into paper. Paper into wood pulp, into hydrocarbons, molecules, particles, etc. You will go on and on and on and on and on. Finally, you have to say what? Something that exists without a form. Therefore, formless existence has to be Brahman. Sarvam Kalvidam Brahman. Okay. All this is what is there is Brahman. No? Okay. Sarvam Yetad Brahman. So, you are forced to come to that. Forced to come to that. Then, I am Atma Brahman. There also you will be forced to come to that. There are 2-3 ways of going into it. First, what is the entity that you talk of as I? That's the easy way of going into it. Okay. I, body. But we use the CRC in logic. You have experience. I body, my body. I am tall, short, etc. I equals body. What a workout I had, my whole body is paining. My body, which is true. So if there are two opinions and both cannot be the same, then you need to use a logic to understand what is possible. Therefore, the seer seen logic comes here and says Drik Drishya Viveka, and it says, well, it's an object of your awareness, therefore not you. Your sense organs you see there, but you see the sense organs also. Can't see very clearly any specks. No. What a vision I had here. Before the lookout can see something out at sea, I would spot it. Even though I'm at a lower level. Lookout is high up there. क्या अभी तो बुड्ढा बन गया यार, चश्मा चाहिए. So that means you are aware that once it was bright and this thing, now you need some help. You are aware of it, not you. It comes under rhythm. Prana, same thing. High energy, low energy. You can manipulate. Pranayama, what do you do? So, not you. Emotions keep changing all the time. Not you. Knowledge, not you. You were there before you gathered the knowledge. Plus you are aware of it. Not you. Now what are you? The awareness that is looking at everything. The consciousness which is aware of everything. Objectless consciousness. Formless existence and formless consciousness. Formless existence behind Idam Sarvam. And the Idam Sarvam, if you look at the body, you will come to the same thing. What is this? So many different molecules. You will go into the DNA, this, that, finally what? Formless existence. Because inert matter. No, but it is alive. Alive because of eye consciousness. It's alive because of eye consciousness. Why is it alive? Because the mind is associated with it. Why is the mind conscious? Because consciousness is backing it up. Because there are times when your mind is not conscious. When you are asleep, mind is not conscious anyway. So, everything will resolve into formless existence. I, limitless consciousness. We have seen that before. Time and space cannot affect I consciousness, etc. What is the length of time? What is the truth of time? All that we saw. Gap between events. Two events are only two observations. Therefore, the gap between observations is time. And between two observations, what is there is me. Because two observations are two thoughts in my mind. Therefore, what is there, the truth of time, is me consciousness. So, how can time, which is an apparent manifestation of consciousness through the thoughts, affect me, the consciousness? The apparent manifestation cannot affect me, the consciousness. So, timeless, limitless consciousness. What he said before, as Trikala Atitam, beyond the three periods of time, past, present, future, beyond time in short. One consciousness alone. Therefore, consciousness and existence cannot be two separate things, because formless existence will have to be limitless, and consciousness is also limitless. Therefore, there cannot be two things. What you are talking about as existence has to be nothing but consciousness itself. And that is what me, I am Atma, Brahman. This I that we are talking about. This I that we are talking about is nothing but Brahman. Without the technicalities of explaining Mahavakya. Okay? So that is it. I am Atma, Brahman. Alright, fine, I am Brahman. Understood? Yep. Bad ban gaya. You get it? At every stage. First was understood, fine, nothing more necessary. A little bit more explanation. Second was, is the understood? Yeah, then no. Can you see how the structure of an Upanishad is? We have seen it in other Upanishads also. Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. Yo Veda Nihitam Guhayam Soashtute Sarvan Kaman Saha. If you understood that, fine, done. Job is done. some more explanation. Then what about this creation, everything? Akasha, Vayu, Agni, Apa, Prati, the whole thing comes. Ends up back into what? Anandam Brahmeti. So what is that? An explanation, an elaboration. What is said first? Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahman. From the standpoint of the creation, because the creation is standing against your understanding. So here also, Sarvam idam sarvam Brahmeva. I am Atma Brahman. And who is the one who is seeing all that? Brahman. That means the seer and seen, both are one Brahman alone. Seer-seen division is mithya. To understand this. Because Drigdrishya Viveka is used a lot in Vedanta, isn't it? Drigdrishya Veda is Viveka is used a lot in Vedanta. But the Drigdrishya Veda is mithya, not real. Then why is Vedanta using it? We are using a mithya argument to negate a mithya conclusion. Conclusion, I am the body, is mithya. So we use a mithya Drigdrishya Veda to negate that. Then what? Then I am everything. If you have everything, what is the body? Included in everything or not included in everything? Your negated body, mind, etc. is not you. And then you say, I am consciousness, which is everything. So in everything, body, mind is included or not included? How can it be included in consciousness? As a mithya manifestation. Why? Because the mithya is to depend upon satyam. Satyam is independent of the mithya. So body and mind, etc. are dependent on me. I am independent of body and mind. So we use Drigdrishya Viveka. But the Drigdrishya Viveka argument itself is based on a mithya thing. That's why science will come around and say, hey, in quantum physics we found that Drigdrishya is not really separate. If you learn new Vedanta, you can't say, how can it be? Drigdrishya is separate. No, it's a mithya separation. It's a mithya separation. So if it's a mithya separation, at some point it should break down or not. So it breaks down. At the quantum level, it starts breaking down. Not completely broken, but it starts breaking down. Breaking down because you can't make it completely distinct. One influences the other. So can you see the whole thing coming in? We use the Drigdrishya argument and we all stuck in the Drigdrishya argument. When you see Vedanta, Drigdrishya argument is the first thing that will come into your mind. Mithya. Argument itself is mithya. It serves a job to remove the mithya misunderstanding, isn't it? Because seer-seen difference is not fact. I am everything is fact. Correct or not? If you say I am consciousness, then I am everything is fact. I am separate from everything is not fact. Unless you belong to beyond Ananda, your whole idea of Atma consciousness is that it is beyond everything, beyond time, space, beyond body, mind, this, that, etc. Kidhar hai Timbuktu mein, which I have to realize. How? God alone knows. No, so actually we make it very clear by transcending. Oh yeah, you make it very clear, very. So who's transcending? Atma is already transcendental, need not transcend. Mind cannot transcend itself anyway. Like the pole vault example, you are leaving the mind behind. Then who's going over? I. Hey, who's that I? Are you the mind or are you the Atma? If you are the Atma, you need not go beyond. If you are the mind, you cannot go beyond. सब बकवास है. ऋषिकेश टॉकिंग, ओके. सब ऐसा कुछ बोलता है, बोलने के लिए बोलता है. ठीक है, पब्लिक के लिए ऐसा बोल दो, अच्छा ही है. थोड़ा कुछ समझ में आएगा तो अच्छा है. लेकिन स्वामी जी पब्लिक के क्या क्यों मुझसे बोलने क्या? हाँ, सब मूर्ख लोग बैठा है ना, इसके लिए बोलना पड़ता है इसका. दिस इज टिपिकल ऋषिकेश टॉक, ओके. हाँ, मूर्ख लोग बैठा है. आई एम नॉट जोकिंग. दिस इज द ट्रेडिशनल ऋषिकेश लैंग्वेज, ओके. Murkha is ignorant, that's why. Not that you are a fool, but you are ignorant. And if an ignorant man is out of ignorance concluding something about facts, it becomes an ignorant conclusion. It becomes foolish anyway. So, keeping that in mind, understand this. Dirgdrishya Viveka is also not complete. It is a mithya argument. We are using your own experience of Dirgdrishya to come to pure consciousness. And once you come to consciousness, you have to understand, you have to drop the Dirgdrishya argument and say everything is nothing but consciousness. Sarvam Brahmeva. Everything is Brahman, including your body, mind, etc. Including the world. Whole world is Brahman, no? We don't say everything is Mithya. We are not Mithyavadis, we are not Mayavadis, we are Brahmavadis. We are Brahman and our Vada is Brahman, is Brahma. Brahmavadis we are. We don't say everything is Mithya, we say Sarvam Khalvidam Brahman. But it appears different. Their appearance is Mithya. Be clear about this, otherwise gadbad ho jayega. Your understanding of Vedanta will never be clear. If what I have said in the last few minutes are not clear, nothing will be clear. The negation is only to arrive at the content. It's like a child seeing all the gold ornaments and thinks everything is different. So the character melts it all down and says, what is there? It's only gold. There's no chain, no bangle, no this thing, this thing. But do you really need to melt it down? Beginning, after that what? Cognitively, no? Cognitively. The whole thing is a cognitive process, that's all. Because this is one thing I found with many students of Vedanta, they get stuck on the Dirgdrishya Viveka. Don't. Yeah, Dirgdrishya is used, it is useful, correct? But Dirgdrishya is not Satyam. Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma is Satyam. नहीं तो बहुत गड़बड़ हो जाएगा. You know, your understanding of Brahman will be an isolated entity. Your understanding of the Atma also will be an isolated entity. And with that, what we are trying to break in Vedanta is our sense of isolation. And by studying Vedanta like this, you will confirm your isolation. Asango, I am Asanga, I am different from everything else. Asanga means untouched. Like how the pot is not heavy on the clay. The pot does not touch the clay. That way. I don't even want to use rope snake. Now the pot does not touch the clay. That's asangatva. That's recognition. It's not detachment. Another problem. All this comes by taking Dirgdrishya as true, as absolute. I have to be detached from everything. What detachment? Then I'll hear jokes, stupid ones. I give sannyasa to sannyasa. I mean, these are jokes. What stupidity is that? If you're talking, you're given sannyasa to sannyasa, then you're remaining stuck where you are. That's all it means. Which is fine, your choice. Nobody questioning that. Your choice, fine. But what have you done? Nothing. Decided that sannyasa is not meant for me. Good, acha, sensible. One sensible decision you have taken. With this type of stupid thinking, it is not meant for you. Good. Yeah. So, are you getting the idea where the whole thing comes from? If you are stuck on the Drigdrishya Viveka, you are not going to understand I am everything. Therefore, Sarvam Brahmeva, I am Atma Brahman. Then he makes. Now, he is giving you a concept. Okay. To explain away certain concepts that you already have. Again, like Drigdrishya Viveka, we have certain ideas of separateness, this, that, etc. So now what he is doing it, he is much of the racket. He is creating another super concept like. Okay. And then you can negate the whole thing at one stroke. Okay. So to negate everything is like, all right, you will say everything is mithya. What do you mean everything is mithya? Then you can say living, non-living, this, that. You will give a few categories. Correct. All the living things like this, like this. Then in living you can say mammals, not mammals, all that. All these categories you can put. Okay. Non-living, all this, certain categories you create. You know, certain whole, certain, what you call in mathematical language, you create certain sets. Then you negate everything at one shot. As mithya. Each set is, all this is mithya stuff. You look at it more holistically, and after looking at it holistically, you say what appears is mithya. Therefore, the whole that is there is only one consciousness. That is the using of the concept that he is doing in Mandukya. That's why the idea of Turiyam, etc. has come. But then again, people get stuck. Partly the teacher's fault, partly the student's fault. Because they don't explain what is being done. What is being done. So he says, okay, Soyam Atma Chatushpa. This Atma is fourfold, he says. Hey, I thought Atma is one here. I have come to know the one, abhi usko char kyun bana diya? Why are you making it four? Up to now you have been saying it is one, it is one, it is one. Hey, because you are not understanding that, I am forced to now make a conceptualization. So that when I negate the conceptualization, you will understand the truth behind it. And this four is based on your experience. We will go into detail with the Sanskrit terminology and all later, but based on your experience. The conceptualization is based purely on your experience. Why? You experience the waking world. You experience a dream world. You experience deep sleep. Every human being at some time or the other has gone through these three experiences. At some time. If not every day. Technically, scientifically speaking, every day you go through this. Unless if you have insomnia or something and you don't get to sleep. So you will say, I didn't sleep a wink. But now you get those modern gadgets. Those people who say, I don't sleep a wink, they had various levels. REM sleep, dream, then light sleep, then few moments of deep sleep. You check up your gadgets. Even those people who say, I didn't sleep a wink, thoda hai, they had limited, not enough to make them feel rested enough. That's all. So everyone goes through this. And you conceive of something beyond all this. Some people experience, some people understand, some people conceive. Other than the three. So that's why I say it is fourfold. Purely based on your experience. Purely based on your experience. Then, in explaining the fourth, he will dismiss the three. And say all that is there is only this one. He won't say fourth then. Then he will say all that is there is only this one entity. Back to Sarvam Brahma Eva. Back to that. So he is postulating four. Then in explaining the four, he will come back and say it is the one and that's all that is there. So this is the paradigm used to explain that all that is there is one. Advaitam Satyam. To explain that, he is using your Dvaita experiences. Why? Starting point is always Dvaita. No? Even if you are a great seeker, full-time seeker, full-time. Seeker is enough, there is no need of full-time, part-time, but since some people take it up, you can't call them sannyasis yet, but they don't do anything else, they walk out and study that, and some people don't. We have to create these apparent differences. Okay? Adi Devo Brahmeti comes very traditional. Adi Devo Brahmeti. He comes with firewood in his hand also. I mean, kya karega firewood se? In today's world. What am I going to do with the firewood? But okay, traditional. Even when he comes like that, he is coming with duality in his mind or non-duality in his mind? There is a teacher who knows, there is a student who doesn't know. There is a reality which I want to know. Kitna duality? It starts with duality only, na? Even serious studies start with duality. Those who have been attending Brahma Sutras, Pashvadi Vischa Vishesha. Okay, yeah. So, because it starts with that, you are forced to use it. And you use it to explain what? Sarvam Brahmaiva. The whole Upanishad is explaining that only. In between, so many things come in. But in all that, don't lose track of Sarvam Brahmaiva. I am Atma Brahma. Don't lose track of that. Everything is an explanation of that. So that explanation we will see in detail next class onwards. Okay. Good place to stop. Om Tat Sat.
Swamiji, I have a doubt.